I first noticed it during my morning coffee run. My shadow stretched across Fox Hollow Road, not opposite the rising sun in the east where it should be, but north, toward the Henderson Development Project. I blinked, shifting positions. It stayed fixed, like a compass needle finding true north. Others noticed too. Children pointed at their stubborn shadows on the playground. Dogs whined and pulled at their leashes, trying to move away from their ill-fated silhouettes. By noon, when shadows should have pooled beneath our feet, they still stretched toward the construction site, growing darker and sharper with each passing hour. The foreman called an emergency meeting with the city council. Ground-penetrating radar had revealed something massive beneath the foundation they'd started to dig. Like a void, he said, but denser than the earth around it. And it's moving. That night, I watched from my window as shadows crept up walls, all pointing to that single spot. Even with my lights off, my own shadow was visible against the carpet, pulled by whatever lurked beneath the excavation. The next morning, they brought in archaeologists. By afternoon, geologists. By evening, men in hazmat suits. They worked under floodlights that cast multiple shadows from each person, all of them straining toward the dig site like starving, withered fingers. I dreamed of sinking that night, of being pulled down through layers of soil and time. In my dream, I heard a sound like granite grinding against granite, like ancient teeth finally beginning to move. Woke, the shadows had grown solid, dark lines of force, drawing everything toward the site. Birds couldn't fly over it, their shadows would drag them down. Cars stalled within a block's radius, their metal frames groaning toward the pull. They evacuated the town this morning, but I had to know. I followed my shadow to the edge of the excavation and looked down. Below, in the raw earth, something vast was unfurling. Each movement sent tremors through the ground, and with each tremor, our shadows grew heavier. Whatever slept here for millennia wasn't buried. It was anchored. And now, we've cut its chains. I've never had too many experiences I could deem creepy in my life. Honestly, I live a pretty mundane but fun life. However, I had an experience with an old acquaintance from school that kept me pretty paranoid for a good bit of my childhood years. I won't give anyone the real names of these people, so I'll just call the girl in this story Jess. For a while during my school years, starting in elementary up to middle school, I went to school with Jess. I wasn't friends with her, but I knew her, and I wouldn't turn down any time to talk with her. She was always very odd in the way she presented herself. She was always dainty and sorta kept to herself. It may be odd to say, but she had an almost ethereal vibe to her. Blue eyes, complete albino white hair, and was always soft-spoken, very princess-like. Anyways, I always occasionally approached her, but nothing much else for a good while. You know, the usual early childhood school acquaintance sorta dynamic. One day, I was at our local park during the weekend when her and her little brother came to the park. It was a bit of a surprise, but a welcome one. I played the usual park games with them, caught up, and in general just had a good time. Eventually we ended up playing hide and seek. I was the seeker, if I remember well. I found her little brother. And we eventually found her at the top of the slide. Our town's park used to have a giant frog slide where you could sit on a platform on the top and go down 3 different slides. We found her, and as she ran up the ladder when we caught her going down the other end, her tone shifted, like completely shifted. She had an unnerving, stern expression, a stark contrast to how she was acting before. She then, without warning, said, "I'm going to kill you," to me. Seeing her have this sudden change and verbal threat towards me genuinely scared me and made me feel like I did something horribly wrong. I ran to hide somewhere in the park for what felt like half an hour. Soon enough, she eventually confronted me and came clean. She apologized and revealed to me what she had apparently been keeping from me. She revealed to me that she was actually a vampire. No, I'm not making this up. She told me straight up that she was actually a vampire and was keeping it secret from everyone to not reveal the truth. This is where I need to bring up a crucial detail about this girl. For all of my time knowing her, she genuinely wholeheartedly believed she was a vampire. To this day, I don't believe this was some sort of screwing with people for shits and giggles. She genuinely believed it, eventually told the truth to one of my close friends, went into disturbing detail about what she did during the night, and constantly made sure I didn't tell anyone. The reason I say that is, at that park, on that playset that evening, she told me straight to my face that with her powers, she could see what I was doing 24/7. And if I told anyone, like friends, teachers, or even my own parents, that she'd come to my house in the middle of the night and kill me. I know this sounds really stupid, but to me, as a really gullible young kid, I couldn't tell what was real and that wasn't, so as far as I knew, she was genuinely threatening me. I left that park with the knowledge of this idea she set into my head, and it genuinely affected me. I kept the secret for years, even after she left the school. I was genuinely torn with decision multiple times in my life, fighting between telling my mom and not telling my mom, since I felt so horrified about what she might do to me either way. Eventually, years later, I came to learn that it wasn't real, obviously, but the years I lived with that paranoia in the back of my mind can't be taken back. Even my current friend group agrees about how odd of an individual she was, and how off-putting she felt. I know how stupid I seemed back then for genuinely believing it, but honestly, I reacted in the most realistic way I could. It may have been complete BS, but the idea of someone threatening you to come to your house and kill you in your sleep isn't normal. Wherever she is, I hope Jess is doing well, and I hope she eventually grew out of this phase she seemed to be in for a good while. Father called him Quickstep. "My son," Father said, beaming on television, "who inherited my superpowers." Cut to footage of a boy with a shock of blonde hair, clad in a skin-tight silver mousse suit. He screwed his eyes shut and clenched his fists, and the outline of his body grew hazy, as if he were being blurred in a paint program. Suddenly, the hazy mass shot across the screen, so fast that the camera couldn't keep up. When it found him again, he was standing 50 feet away. Next was Hypnosis, with her poisonously soothing voice that slithered into your soul. Her super name was chosen in a magazine contest. In front of millions, Father read out the winning name, chuckled, and drew her in for a hug. That evening, we heard him shouting at her through the walls about her joke of a name. Then there were the rest of us. We didn't have names because we didn't have powers yet. I was the oldest, so Father often called me into his office to sort his papers or refill his coffee. I'd hear him muttering to himself. Boring, overdone, oh, maybe. I dreaded the maybe. After one of them, Father would look up at me and smile, the corners of his eyes crinkling. "Child," he'd say, "bring one of your siblings to the lab in an hour." The first few times after we watched Hypnosis's broadcast, my siblings were excited, shouting over one another in their eagerness. To be chosen, to be made super. But time after time, we all heard the screaming. We all saw that no one came back. Yesterday, Father mused, maybe superheroes need. When my siblings saw me, they backed away, pressing their backs to the far wall like they wished to melt into it. My heart broke. An hour later, I entered the lab to a frown from Father. "Child," he said, "why are you alone?" I took a shaky breath. "Today," I said, "I brought myself." He shrugged and led me around the corner to the back of the lab. I braced myself for horrors, but there was only a steel table. On it was a glass half filled with clear liquid. "Drink," he said. So I did. Fire coursed through my veins. I screamed, but even as I did so, something in my mind shifted. It was like there was a chest of drawers at the back of my head, and some of the drawers were being slammed shut. The pain was gone. The worry for my siblings that had weighed me down lifted. I felt fantastic. Other drawers were wrenched open. It wasn't fair that I had been denied this for so long. My remaining siblings didn't even appreciate the opportunity in front of them. Cowards. Ingrates. Father pressed a knife into my hand. As my fingers closed around the handle, the blade glowed wit. Ye hot. Inferno, my child, he said. You will be what superheroes need. A supervillain. So, it was around 12 to 1 p.m., and during that time I got around 2 scam calls. Obviously I declined them both, but then when it got to the third one I answered, ready to crash out on who kept calling me. But as soon as I said, hello, I started hearing a woman's cries. I responded, are you okay? And keep in mind, I do not know the person, but I also couldn't help but notice how it sounded like someone I knew. But I couldn't pinpoint it since they sobbed and sobbed before they finally responded, pick me up, over and over, and by now I'm just wondering if they knew they were calling the wrong number. And I responded, who are you? Before they responded, quite quickly, you know who I am, please pick me up. And I was worried, ASF, and if I'm being honest, the number looked oddly like it could be from a school, but I doubt it. And then I said, I think you have the wrong number, and they said, no, please just pick me up. And I was about to decline, but I was already uncomfortable and had a gut feeling that maybe this person is in trouble, or what if they are missing? And that was pretty stupid to think, but who wouldn't have thought that, with a woman crying saying things like those? And then I responded again, are you okay? Before they cried for a good couple minutes without saying anything, and after that, they declined. And I turned off my phone, and being flat out just uncomfortable with all the hairs on my body standing up, and getting up to see if my door was locked definitely didn't help, as I thought what might have gotten that woman to frantically call someone, probably their parents, yet accidentally call me. They unfortunately didn't call me back, so I couldn't tell if they were okay. But since that call, everything has been silent, no more scammers, etc. But since then, I've been paranoid. Hey, you, have you ever wanted to look fresh forever? Sick of your family and friends pointing out the gray hairs on your head and wrinkles on your skin due to your middle age? Sick of drowning your sorrows in alcohol every Friday evening because the dating scene is smaller than your will to live past the age of 40? Then go online and order our brand new Eternal Youth Cream. With Eternal Youth Cream, you'll look as hot as the day you turned 18. Just apply it to your face and body and you'll see those wrinkles and skin blemishes go away in mere minutes. We've had thousands of people give us positive reviews for our cream. One reviewer is 47 and now looks no older than 23 with our cream. They scored a date with a young person and now feel like they're finally worth it again. You need looks and the hots to really get out there and attract people. Okay, it seems that I've been told we're having a recall on this product. It turns out some people have had cases of cancer developing. Others reported their facial skin gaining horrible rashes and starting to rot. We've just had a confirmed case of someone who peeled away at their face, leaving nothing but the muscle. There's a warning I'm legally forced to now give. Eternal Youth Cream is no longer allowed to be sold in stores. You'll be at your own risk buying it from our website. It also seems to have an addictive nature to people applying it. The more you use this cream, the faster it'll wear off. You may have slim chances of disease or facial damage, but you want to be beautiful, don't you? Call now. So, me and my best friend at the time were having a sleepover at her house one night. We were about 14 at the time, and we had frequent sleepovers. We were pretty bored, and we thought it was a good idea to walk to Dollar General to get some snacks for the night. It was about 9 p.m. There was a shortcut behind her house, through a church parking lot, and through a little pathway to the Dollar General. And so, we make our way to Dollar General, and we get all the snacks that we want. We take the same way we came back. Mind you, it's super dark outside, so as soon as we go through the pathway, my friend turns her phone flashlight on. It's a very short pathway, not too long, until we are back at the church parking lot. So we are walking, and we go to take a right, and boom, we run straight into an older Hispanic man with 1,000-yard stare on his face. My friend screams, but she quickly apologizes. The man still does nothing. He doesn't move. He doesn't change his facial expression, and he doesn't speak. He just keeps standing there in the darkness with nothing. So we keep walking through the church parking lot, and my friend kind of blows it off. But I keep my eyes on the area where we saw him at, and I'm walking backwards, and she's walking forwards. We are talking and walking, and I still cannot brush it off. And then as we are walking about halfway through the parking lot, I see about 6 men come out of the darkness, and they're bolting at us at full speed. Luckily, we are a good bit ahead, and I scream at her and tell her we need to run. They're coming, so we start booking it. And I don't know why we didn't just run the rest of the way to her house, but we decided to hide behind an air conditioning unit behind the church. Not long after, we hear them run past, and they're all yelling in Spanish, so we couldn't understand what they were saying. Shortly after they pass, we built up the courage to run the rest of the way back to her house, and as we make it to her house, there's a fence right behind her house, and we see them running behind the fence. They never saw us or where we went, but it still scares me to this day to think about when we ran into that man, were they just hiding in the shadows behind the bushes waiting for us? What if they didn't give us a head start and just attacked us then? What if they found us and caught up to us before we got away? So many things could have happened. Until this day, it still gives me the chills to think about what their intentions truly were.